Hi, so this is my vodcasting series. It's where I just talk about what's going on in the world of Warcraft and more specifically this particular time, generally speaking, what's going on in the Alpha Legion as we get ready for the next expansion, as there isn't really a great deal to talk about in Warlords of Draenor at the moment. What I'd like to talk about today is the way Blizzard respond to certain types of feedback and why they're more positive to some types than others. Okay, so what sort of started me off on this one, of course, being a Retribution Paladin, mostly. Yes, I know I am the red-headed stepchild that gets slapped about all the time. I've said on many occasions. And there are a couple of things with the Retribution Paladin, and I'm going to talk about other things as well. This is not just focused on Paladins. There were a couple of abilities that people sort of said to Blizzard after the last build, okay, we don't like this. One was Eye for an Eye, and it was something that cost us Holy Power, which is one of our resources, well, it's our main resource, and had a cooldown. And people were arguing, well, you know, you should either not have a cooldown or not have a resource cost. You shouldn't really give it both. Blizzard responded to that really well. In the current build, they removed the resource cost, so it just has a cooldown. It's a defensive ability. And great, they've listened to that feedback. But then there's another ability, the Greater Blessings, where they're completely refusing to budge. And this isn't like people going on forums. You can understand the thing. People go on forums, I don't like this, I ain't got a reason, but I just don't like it. And Blizzard, of course, are not going to respond favourably to that. And we know we look on forums and we've got that. But we're talking about direct discussions from theory crafters who can actually demonstrate very clearly how this is going to cause problems. And it seems to me that Blizzard are perfectly happy to discuss tweaks to things that are already in the game or already in the alpha, but not anything that offends their philosophy. And they've used the phrase class fantasy on more than one occasion to justify the inclusion of something, even if it's mechanically wrong. And it seems to me the focus on class fantasy should be that people can choose what they want to play and still engage in the form of endgame content that they want to. And that is not what is foremost in their minds. I mean, when it comes to class fantasy, for example, or just fantasy in the game in general, from an immersion point of view, from a role-playing point of view, I mean, look what happens. From Alliance point of view, I'll just explain. I play Horde now, and I'm sure there are similar things. In fact, I know there are similar things on the Horde side. But take the Alliance side, for example. You question about, especially if you're human and you go to Westfall. In Westfall, you're told, you do a series of quests that is the result of the aftermath of the Northrend campaign. The Lich King has fallen. You go to Western and Eastern Plague Lands eventually. And again, it's all about the Plague Lands recovering after the fall of the Lich King. There's a similar thing when you start off as Undead, the Forsaken. Again, it's all the quest is very much about the fall of the Lich King, and you know the reduced power of the Scourge. Well, okay, all right, that is in the past from our point of view, from the point of view of players who've been playing this game for many years. The problem is, think about it from a new player point of view. They do all that. They're wondering what this Lich King thing's all about. They get to level 70, and then they get a quest. You must go to the Northrend and defeat the Lich King. I didn't... What? When I started the game, you told me the Lich King was defeated. Yeah, you defeated it. What? So I'm going back in time, am I? No. Doesn't make sense, does it? Doesn't make sense. I mean... Pandaren, for example, you start off as a Pandaren, whatever class, you start off at level 1. And then you get all the way through, and then you start getting quests. Oh, we've discovered these lands with Pandaren on it. We'll go and investigate, see what they're all about. It's like, hello, I'm a Pandaren. Hello. None of it makes sense. The chronology of the game doesn't make sense. So, frankly, hiding behind the brick wall of class fantasy for something. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making things distinct. We would, a lot of people, although we've accepted homogenization of certain abilities, we do know that it's not ideal from a roleplay point of view. So having distinct abilities is really good, but you still have to bear in mind some mechanics just need to be very similar. It's like they have put this brick wall, and whenever they get asked a question they don't like to answer with logic, they just say class fantasy. It's a bit like the episode of The Simpsons, for anyone that watches that, and it had an episode with like the actress Lucy Lawless that played Xena, and they're at a conference and they were being asked all these questions about inconsistencies in the film. She said, "Oh yeah, whenever you see that, a wizard did it," and then someone asks a question, "Wizard." This is their response. This is their "a wizard did it" response. Class fantasy. No more discussion. And one thing that very recently, and Blizzard responded to this one. This is actually correct to Blizzard in a way. Was the Water Strider thing. This thing broke that Water Striders were not working in Legion. And, the blue response was, well, and it was not unreasonable. It's not an unreasonable thing to discuss in a meeting. And remember, none of this ever went live, so it's not a big deal. But they were saying, well, we've observed that lots of people are using Water Striders. Well, yes, there's nothing wrong with that. And what they felt was that people were using Water Striders because of the convenience, that they were basically like Warcraft's hovercrafts, aren't they? They can go over land and sea, no problem. And they felt that people were constrained, and maybe they wanted to use other mounts and felt that they shouldn't because they should use the Water Strider. And then what happened is people say they weren't happy about this. Well, they said, "Oh, so okay, what we'll do, lads, is we will make it so that they can work in all." Because the original plan was they'd only work in the expansion that you got them. But then they said, "Okay, we'll let them work in all older expansions. So everything up to and including Warlords of Draenor, fine. It just won't work in the Broken Isles." And then people still weren't happy about this, and they went, "Oh, all right. I didn't know you took it so seriously. We'll revert it completely." And this is what perplexes me about the whole thing. Here you can see on some water with my Water Strider. Nothing unusual about that. The argument they were making is, "Oh, well, everyone's on their Water Strider all the time because it's more convenient. They can ride on water and all the rest of it. And maybe they want to go on a different mount, and they feel they can't because they can't go over water." Well, this is what gets me about that. Now, the Magic Rooster, I might have mentioned this before. I love the Magic Rooster. I don't have it in live. It's one of the trading card game things. I'm still on the water. I can be on my Magic Rooster and go across water in Legion. Now, what devilry is this, I hear you ask? Well, it's perfectly simple. You get a ring from, I can't even remember where, probably some quest somewhere. Sculpted eagle bone ring here, 780 item level. You feel surprisingly light. The consequence of this is you can pass over water on any mount you choose. Doesn't have to be a mount. I can do it on foot. No problem at all. Usual rules apply about not being in combat and things like that. So it completely baffles me as to why Blizzard have put this in, spent time putting this in when they've got plenty to be doing, and tried to justify it when there was initially opposition to this, and of course they finally listened, and credit to them for that, and put it back. But why fight the battle in the first place when it's total nonsense? You do not need the Azure Strider or any other water walking mount to be able to walk on water in Legion. No idea what they're on about. Now, just to sort of rebalance the idea, there are some times where you sort of have to Blizzard have to make a decision, because there are some things that some people will like and some people won't. There's a response here about someone talking about, saying Flight Master should be retired, just get rid of them. How in some MMOs, you can just port from one place to another, greater quality of life, and the community manager here, saying, but they quite like it. Being on the Griffin allows you to sort of see the scenery, see the thing from above, especially before you're actually able to fly in that particular thing. We know we can't get flying as soon as we reach level cap. We have to do achievements again, just like in Warlords of Draenor. We'll get it a lot quicker than in Warlords of Draenor, but it won't be right from the start. It won't be available immediately. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm okay. But some people aren't in favour of that. And at some point, you have to make a decision. So some people would like to be able to port from point to point as long as they've discovered the location. So like flight masters that take 0 time, you just port there, get a loading screen, and that's it. And some people will like the Griffin ride. Apart from anything else, it allows you to go for a quick piss and get a drink, doesn't it? But also you can sort of enjoy as I say, you can enjoy the scenery that you won't have seen from up high yet because you don't have your own flying mount. And in those situations, I don't bash Blizzard even if they take the decision that I don't like, because I know it's one of those where some like it and some don't. But when you've got a situation whereby you have no real support amongst the player base, whether it's from the people who play the game very seriously or the people who play it more casually, then you have to wonder why they're doing it at all. You know, because it's a bit like a politician who, instead of representing the people who voted for them, represents their own self-interest. They have their own political ideals, of course. Any intelligent person has got their own ideas. And they're pursuing that agenda regardless of what the people who voted for them want them to do. And this is very similar, I feel. You know, it's like they've got this very definite idea in their mind, and even when it's met with very serious opposition, unless it's something quite minor that they don't care that much about, like the Water Strider, that they don't listen. They just put up shop and, you know, class fantasy or fantasy or doesn't fit our philosophy. Just phrases that are just bandied about far too often. And it's not engaging. It's not explaining yourself. At least explain yourself. At least explain with logic why you want to do a particular thing. But I would still say, in most other businesses, you need to give the customers what they want. It's a luxury product as well. It's not like you're a service where you can say to them, well, do you know what? Do you want our service or not? Because, you know, there's no one else to go to. You know, it's like the police. Well, I'm not happy with your service. All right, then don't call us next time you get a burglary. It's a luxury product. It's a game. And I don't understand why they're not trying to foster the goodwill of players by either at least showing that they are listening instead of just throwing out statements that say, we're not listening to you because, you know, it's our game, we'll do what we like with it. Or at least showing that they are responding to feedback. As I say, sometimes they do. When it's something minor, when we're not telling them, we don't like that ability, you know, if we're saying to them, we don't like that ability, get rid of it, they don't like that. But if we say to them, no, we don't quite like it in that form, tweak it a little bit, then they're much more responsive. And it's like, shouldn't they just be responsive to all feedback, especially when it's quite overwhelming? But anyway, those are just my random thoughts on the subject. From next week, I'm likely to start doing a few more things that I've been planning on doing, some top 5s for the next few weeks, unless something big comes up news-wise to do a little vodcast of. And of course, in the meantime, I'm going to be, if new builds come up on the alpha, I'm going to be updating the website. I haven't updated the website with the changes yet. And Retribution Paladin, of course. The Demon Hunter I can't really update because I can't play the Demon Hunter in alpha. The Demon Hunter I was leveling is currently falling through the world and has been doing for quite a bit over a week now. I think it's lost forever. I was hoping with the new build it would be just killed. Usually what happens when you're falling through the world is you come back a few hours' time, you're just dead somewhere. But no, still falling, still falling, still falling. So I made another one, and you couldn't complete the quest, I should say, because you couldn't upgrade your artifact, and you need to do that before you can go to the Broken Isles. They fixed that in the latest build, but then the next little bit of quest doesn't work. So I still can't get to the Broken Isles. I think I could probably sign up for dungeons, but that's about it. So I can't really do any more on the Demon Hunter if you're waiting for that. I will have a little look at the Death Knight again, because Frost Death Knights I quite like. I will update that as well. And I'm hoping that at some point soon we'll be able to look at professions. But I think what Blizzard are doing is really trying to nail classes down, which I actually am quite pleased about. I'd rather they did that. I complained during WoD beta that they were leaving that till the last minute. So I'm glad that they're doing that early now. and hopefully they will. But then I want to start having a look at professions more, which I can't do at the moment because the zones I need to go to complete quests are just not available. But anyway, there we are. Until next time, I'll see you later. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. If you don't like, please comment, say why.